In the beginning of the ancient world, when the earth was still untouched by corruption and humanity lived in simplicity beneath endless skies, there existed a perfect and sacred balance between heaven and earth that had never been broken. Far beyond the reach of human sight, in the vastness above the heavens, powerful beings known as the Watchers observed mankind closely, studying their lives with a curiosity that slowly grew into something far more dangerous and uncontrollable. These beings were not bound by human weakness or earthly limitations, yet something about humanity awakened emotions within them that they had never experienced before in their eternal existence. As generations passed and humans spread across the land, the beauty of the daughters of men began to capture the attention of the Watchers in ways that challenged their purpose and their obedience. What began as simple observation gradually transformed into desire, and that desire eventually turned into a rebellion against the divine order they were meant to follow. They fully understood the boundaries placed upon them and the consequences of crossing those sacred limits, yet their growing longing blinded them to the danger ahead. One by one, they made the fateful decision to descend from the heavens, leaving behind their place in the divine realm to walk among humans. Their arrival on Earth was silent yet powerful, and from the moment they stepped into the human world, the balance of creation began to shift in ways no one could reverse. The air itself seemed to change, as if nature could sense that something unnatural had entered its domain and disturbed the order of existence. From that moment onward, the path toward darkness had begun. The world would never return to what it once was. The Watchers soon abandoned all restraint and began taking human wives from among the daughters of men, forming unions that defied the natural laws of creation itself. These relationships were unnatural and forbidden, bringing together divine beings and mortal humans in a way that had never been intended. From these unions, children were born, but they were unlike any humans who had ever walked the earth before. They grew rapidly in both size and strength, towering over entire communities like living giants whose presence alone inspired fear. Their power was unmatched, capable of destruction on a scale that ordinary humans could not even comprehend. People began to whisper about them in fear, spreading stories of their immense size, strength, and uncontrollable nature. These beings came to be known as the Nephilim, a name that would echo through generations as a symbol of terror and dominance. The Nephilim quickly took control of the land, asserting their power over everything and everyone around them. Humanity, once free and hopeful, now lived under the shadow of these towering giants who ruled without mercy. With each passing day, the world moved further away from harmony and closer to complete chaos. The Nephilim were not only physically powerful, but they also possessed knowledge that had never been meant for humanity to understand. The Watchers, in their rebellion, began teaching them forbidden secrets, revealing knowledge of weapons, warfare, and destruction. This dangerous knowledge spread beyond the giants and began to influence human societies across the world. Peace slowly disappeared as violence and conflict became more common in everyday life. Cities that once thrived in harmony were now ruled by fear and controlled by the giants. The weak were oppressed and crushed, while the strong were forced to serve under the rule of the Nephilim. Bloodshed became a constant presence, and the earth itself seemed to cry out under the weight of corruption. The natural balance of creation was completely broken, leaving chaos in its place. No region remained untouched as the darkness spread across every corner of the earth. And as the corruption grew, the need for judgment became impossible to ignore. Among the Watchers, some began to realize the full extent of the destruction they had caused and felt deep regret for their actions. They looked upon the earth and saw chaos, suffering, and corruption spreading far beyond anything they had imagined. But despite their regret, they knew it was far too late to undo what had already been done. The Nephilim had grown too powerful and too dominant to be stopped by any human force. These giants saw themselves as superior beings, believing they were above both humans and divine authority. Their arrogance blinded them to the reality of their situation and the danger that awaited them. No army could stand against them, and their rule seemed unstoppable across the entire world. Humanity was pushed to the brink of extinction, struggling to survive under their control. Hope faded as darkness covered the land, and fear became a way of life. Yet beyond the silence, something far greater was preparing to respond. The corruption of the earth reached a level that could no longer be ignored by the forces of heaven. A divine decision was made to restore balance and bring an end to the chaos that had consumed the world. Judgment would come not only as punishment, but as a necessary act to cleanse the earth. The Nephilim, as unnatural beings, could not be allowed to continue their existence. Their destruction became inevitable, along with the punishment of the Watchers who had rebelled. Chains of darkness awaited those who had abandoned their purpose and corrupted creation. But before justice could be fully carried out, the earth itself needed to be purified. A plan was set into motion, one that would reshape the entire world. Among humanity, one man was chosen because of his righteousness and faith. Through him, life would be preserved and allowed to begin again. This man remained faithful while the rest of the world continued to fall deeper into corruption and violence. He was given a task that seemed impossible: to build a massive vessel capable of surviving the coming destruction. People mocked him and dismissed his warnings, believing nothing would ever change. The skies remained clear, offering no visible sign of the danger ahead. But the message he carried was real, and time was quickly running out. As he continued his work, the Nephilim ignored everything, consumed by their pride and power. They believed themselves to be unstoppable and beyond any form of judgment. Their arrogance prevented them from seeing the truth unfolding around them. Meanwhile, the vessel became a symbol of hope in a world filled with darkness. And soon, everything would change in a single moment. The day of judgment arrived suddenly, catching the entire world unprepared for what was about to happen. Dark clouds filled the sky and thunder roared with a force that shook the earth itself. Rain began to fall slowly at first, but it quickly turned into an unstoppable storm. At the same time, the ground broke open, releasing powerful floods from beneath the earth. Water rose rapidly, covering fields, cities, and entire regions in a matter of moments. The Nephilim tried to resist the rising waters, but their strength proved useless. Mountains disappeared beneath the flood as the world was consumed by water. For the first time, the giants experienced fear as they realized their power meant nothing. Their cries echoed across the drowning world as they struggled to survive. But judgment had come, and nothing could stop it. The flood waters continued to rise until nothing remained visible except endless water stretching in every direction. The Nephilim were completely wiped out, their power and dominance erased forever. The Watchers who had fallen were captured and faced their punishment. The earth became silent once again, free from corruption and violence. All that had been destroyed was now gone, leaving behind a cleansed world. Only the great vessel remained, floating above the waters with life inside. Days turned into weeks as the storm slowly began to fade away. The waters eventually began to settle, revealing the beginning of a new world. The destruction had been total, but it allowed for a fresh start. Hope remained alive for the future of humanity. As the waters receded, land slowly appeared once again across the earth. The survivors stepped into a world that felt empty, yet full of possibility. Humanity was given another chance to rebuild and live differently from before. But the memory of the Nephilim remained alive through stories and warnings. Legends of giants were passed down through generations as a reminder of the past. Some believed the giants were gone forever, never to return. Others feared that traces of them might still exist somewhere. Their story became a lesson about pride and disobedience. It reminded humanity of the dangers of crossing forbidden boundaries, and it ensured that their legacy would never be forgotten. Even today, The mystery of the Nephilim continues to fascinate people across the world. Ancient writings and traditions keep their story alive, raising questions about what truly happened. Some search for evidence that giants once walked the earth. Others dismiss the story as myth or symbolic legend. Yet the fascination remains strong and continues to grow over time. Their story represents power, rebellion, and the consequences of defying order. It tells of a time when heaven and earth collided with devastating results. It reminds humanity that not all knowledge is meant to be pursued, and that crossing certain limits can lead to destruction. The story of the Nephilim will continue to live on forever. Subscribe for more mysterious stories and hidden truths from the past. Like and share this video with others who dare to explore the unknown.